Okay, so he just gave me the slip and it says 230 pounds is what I just dropped off. What? Hold on, let's back up a little. Okay, so a few months ago, my husband and I did a basement declutter. Now, this wasn't some massive multi-week basement purge. It was just a quick 2-hour declutter of a space that we had already cleaned out multiple times before, because in the last year, we've really been downsizing. And after making a pile of stuff that was obviously good enough to donate, and we sort of organized that, we bagged up the rest to take to the dump. And when the guy at the dump handed me the slip showing that we had unloaded 230 pounds of stuff, I was surprised. On the drive home, I started doing some quick math in my head. If one random Saturday carload was 230 pounds, how much had we actually gotten rid of over the last few years? I started adding up the countless Goodwill trips, the Facebook free swap post, the donating of our old baby equipment, the massively downsizing our closets. I estimated on that drive that it was easily over 1,000 pounds of stuff. And when I realized this fact, I shared it in a short video, but I really think that this could use a deeper dive. And so that's why I'm creating this longer video. It was really crazy to realize and then admit online that I had 1,000 pounds of crap that I didn't need. And then I had to get rid of it, which felt so wasteful. I mean, it was wildly embarrassing when I realized this after doing the math in my car alone. And then I was like, hey, let's take this really embarrassing fact and share it with the whole world online, because that makes sense. And then it sort of hit me, if we had 1,000 pounds of stuff that we could get rid of, then most people probably did. We're not hoarders by any means. Our home looks like most people's homes that I see. I was quite certain that the amount of junk that we had was equivalent to the amount in the average home in America. And the question I kept coming back to as I sort of mulled this over was, how did we get there? How did I get here? For years, I thought that I was really good at decluttering. I could clear out a room. It would feel really great, I'd get it organized, and that would only last for a little while. The clutter would always come back, more stuff would find its way in, spaces would get filled up again and again, and I was stuck repeating the same cycle. I was getting rid of things, but somehow never ended up with less. And that is because decluttering wasn't actually my problem, consumption and acquisition was. And unlike the makeover shows or the minimalist videos that condense everything into like one weekend, for most people doing this is not a quick transformation. It is a gradual shift of learning to let things go and rethinking how you buy things and how you own things. In his famous book, Goodbye Things, Fumio Sasaki says that it took him 5 years to do this. For my husband and me, I like to think of it like peeling an onion. Each time we peeled back a layer on our decluttering and downsizing journey, we revealed another layer underneath, and we could just continue to peel a little deeper. And I'm not going to continue this peeling metaphor, or my eyes are going to start watering, but I think you get the point. Every time we cleared a space, we would sort of level up. We would come back a month or two later and see it with fresh eyes and find even more that we didn't actually need and we weren't using. And this sort of built our willpower against bringing new clutter in. And as we lived with less, we felt those benefits, right? It was easier to clean. There was less stress. We had more time. We realized how much stuff we held on to for all sorts of reasons. Guilt, nostalgia, shame, having things just because they might impress other people, and how much of what we bought was really just future junk. But it still leaves the big question, right? How does an organized person end up with 1,000 pounds of extra stuff in the first place? In America, the average person throws away about 4.9 pounds of trash every single day. That's supposed to be a trash bag. This is why my job isn't drawing clip art, okay? It comes out to about 1,700 pounds of trash every single year. And this is just our daily trash. This is about 3 times the global average, and more recent data sets actually puts our averages higher, closer to about 2,100 a year. Now, if we think about just the weight of the average home, it has tons of pounds of stuff, right? You're looking at hundreds of pounds of books, probably hundreds of pounds of clothes, and literally thousands of pounds of furniture and appliances. There aren't any real reliable data on how much weight the average home has, but there is an industry standard that long distance moving carriers use that say that the average room has about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds of stuff. This means that the average 3-bedroom home, assuming that it has like a kitchen and a dining room and a few other rooms, you're looking at about 8,000 to 12,000 pounds of stuff. And this isn't even including like basements or garages or attics. When you add those in, it's not hard to estimate the average home having about 20,000 pounds of stuff. Quick break to give a thanks to Supergoop for sponsoring today's video. It is summer, which means it is the time of year that me and my kids are outside pretty much all day. Sometimes they've clocked 2 hours before we've even had breakfast. So obviously getting sunscreen on is part of the morning routine in our house this time of year. And I have been using Supergoop for a few years now. The Supergoop Play line is honestly just my favorite line because there really is something for everyone in my family. We use the Play Everyday Lotion because it's SPF 50, it's water and sweat resistant for up to 80 minutes, and it rubs in quickly, it isn't greasy, nobody complains about it feeling sticky afterwards, and my kids have no issues applying this themselves. I like to keep the Play antioxidant body mist just with us through the day. I keep it outside with us for quick reapplications. It sprays on in seconds, and I won't lie, the whipped coconut smell is so good. It comes in a couple smells, but like the coconut one to me smells like summertime. I legitimately get excited when I get to put it on. I keep the sunscreen stick in my purse for on the go. It's really great for getting kids' cheeks, you know, that tricky spot under their eyes. Whenever I stock up for summer, Supergoop is always on my list. So definitely check out the Supergoop Play collection now. You can use the QR code on my screen or use the link in the description box down below. All right. Now back to the video. Our home sizes have more than doubled in the last 50 years. It is estimated that the average home has 300,000 pounds of stuff, and 1 out of every 10 Americans rents a storage unit to keep all the stuff that doesn't fit into their bigger homes. And a very huge chunk of all of that stuff is giving us nothing, and worse yet, it is taking from us. It's a hard truth to accept at first because we put a lot of weight in our possessions, but the truth is most of it is not. The problem is, however, once we own something, it starts to become important to us, and we have a hard time parting with it. Now, there is something called the endowment effect. It shows that once something belongs to us, we automatically believe it is more valuable than before we owned it. We've all seen this when there's some guy on like Facebook Marketplace who thinks that his table is worth way more than it is, and marketers know this. It's why they offer us free trials or money-back guarantees. They know once we use a product, we will have ownership over it, and thus it will appear more valuable to us and make us less likely to get rid of it. And this is one of the ways that our homes grow with stuff that isn't actually providing us value. On top of that, humans also have something called loss aversion. We hate losing more than we enjoy getting. This means parting with the veggie chopper you never use feels bigger than the extra space that you're going to get in your cabinet when you get rid of it. Most people know deep down that they own too much stuff, but when it comes time to get rid of it, that's where the issue lies. But we all have things that we can get rid of, and as proof, let's grab a trash bag and just walk through my house. I bet we can find stuff we don't need. I bet we can find an entire trash bag of stuff we don't need. Okay, so first up we have this mostly burnt candle that I don't really use anymore. These are some books that I never use. To be fair, I'm not gonna throw these out. I will donate these. I have some drawer dividers that I don't use. This random keychain, expired peppermint syrup at the coffee bar. This is a seat riser that my kids used to sit on, and I've been hanging on to it because I'm like, what if they might need it to sit at the dining room table, but nobody's used it in months. I don't need it. Some more puzzles. I will add these actually to the donation pile, but don't need these. That I decided to look under the kitchen sink, and I found some stuff that belongs to a vacuum that I don't even own anymore. Here's some more stuff. Haven't owned this in like 6 months. Now, the interesting thing when you get rid of stuff is you realize you actually need less, like, containers and organizing systems for them. I have this like special riser to organize all of my stuff, but now that I don't have all of the stuff, I don't even need it anymore. So here's more equipment for that vacuum I don't even own anymore. Add this to the pile, and I think I am about at an entire trash bag full of stuff. This was maybe a 10 to 15 minute walkthrough of my house. I think for many of us, a lot of our issue letting go of the stuff in our home is the idea that we might need it. As the managers of our home, we feel like it is responsible to keep something that might be needed in the future. I know with multiple kids at varying ages, it's really easy to hang on to something that a younger kid might grow into. I keep random pieces to a DIY that I might get to. I have art supplies for a craft that I might do, an outfit for an event that I might go to. Okay, so I have this floral jumpsuit that I have had in my closet for 6 years, and I have worn it exactly one time in those 6 years. But I keep hanging on to it because it's so cute, right? And like maybe I'll have a super fancy event where I need to wear it. I have nothing in my future where I might wear it, but I'm trying to predict the future and think, well, probably in the future I'm gonna have an event. Somebody is gonna invite me to something so fancy where I'm gonna need to wear this adorable, like off the shoulder, one sleeve jumpsuit. I'm gonna be honest, I remember it being cuter and not so short on my big long legs. Really, what's happened is I kept this floral jumpsuit thinking that I'm going to have some fantastic event to wear it to. And the truth is, if I had just put it on, I would have realized I don't really like it. It's actually not that great. It doesn't even fit me very good. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be in charge of knowing everything we or our home might need someday. But that's asking way too much. Now, I'm going to guess that most of you probably have enough to do just keeping up with like what your family needs today, right? In this season of life, than trying to also be in charge of what you need next year. Thinking about that is mind-numbing. And so I have been trying to free myself of that responsibility. It is not my job to be a tarot card reader. I don't need to know the future, and I can't know the future. I shouldn't have to be in charge of hanging on to every item just because we might need it. And not just hang on to it, right? But like be in charge of storing it somewhere and then remembering where it is if I do actually need it someday. Anxiety is often defined as our body's natural flight or fight response to perceived stress or unknown future events. So trying to know everything you might need kind of sounds the same, right? Now I have this theory that in a lot of relationships, there is a worrier and then there's like the carefree one. I feel like most people I talk to who are in a relationship agree that they are either one of these and their partner is the other one. I am not the worrier in my marriage. My husband does that for us. And 9 times out of 10, when he brings up some worry about some unknown future event, my response is usually, we will cross that bridge when we get there. Now, what a great thing if we could look at our stuff the same way. We have no way to know what our future will look like and all the items that we'll need in the future. Why should we have to take on all that anxiety? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. If someday I find that I have a need for an off-the-shoulder floral pattern jumpsuit, I shall cross that bridge when I get there. But if you want the hard truth, we usually don't encounter 99% of the bridges we think that we might. Off-the-shoulder jumpsuit bridge, I'm probably never going to see it. What we should try our best to do is focus on what we need now. Something I've been trying to ask myself lately is, how much do I actually need? A question I ask a lot when I'm decluttering is, what is the least amount I can get by with? So for example, I used to own 3 to 4 white tank tops. Why? I'm not sure. I don't wear 2 white tank tops at once, but our brain likes to tell us that if we use something, surely we need another. But I asked myself, what is the least amount I could make do with? And the answer was 1. I only need 1 white tank top, right? Another example is my kids have a bin of crayons to color. All of them color every day. We spend hours a week coloring. And so in my mind, I was like, I shall buy a bin of 250 crayons and then we will always have crayons. But instead what happens is the crayons get lost, they get spilled. My 1-year-old thinks it's fun to like pour them all over the floor. So instead I said, what is the least amount that I can make do with? I pulled out 2 of each color. Now in this example, I didn't throw away the rest like I did with the white tank tops. I do have a place where I keep like definitely gonna use overstock items in my basement. And as we use up colors, I will replace them. But just by having less out, it makes cleaning easier. It makes coloring for them easier too. Something I have found very interesting about us as human beings is that when we have something that we like, we think we need another. Like we find a t-shirt we love, so we want to get it in more colors. We find a great maxi dress and we buy it in other patterns. Our kids use crayons a lot, so we're like, we need 250 crayons. We have a great water bottle and then we buy 3 more as backups. We have this weird tendency to turn this works really well into like, I should own more of it. And so I've been working to catch myself on these thoughts. Literally just this morning, I put on this romper and that I'm wearing right now. I wear this romper like once a week. And so I thought, oh my God, I wear this romper all the time. I should get another one. But I caught myself and I was like, wait, why? Like, why do I need two? More to hang up, more decision fatigue when it's time to get dressed? The more you let go of things, the easier it starts to become. The more and more you declutter, the more and more you're able to start looking at so many things as just future trash. It's all stuff you are going to have to get rid of eventually. And it's so important to tie our decluttering to our buying, because the last thing that we want to do is end up in what I call the clutter loop. And this is where we declutter, we feel really good, we slowly accumulate again, and then we just have to declutter over again. This is a loop that I was stuck in for years, and I'm just hoping I can help some of you also break out of that too. We will always need to declutter. I'm not saying that you're going to free yourself of that, probably. The goal is not that you never have to declutter. I find stuff will always make its way into our homes, especially if you're a parent. I mean, as I film this, my two older kids are at an art camp. It is like this super cool art studio, and they've been coming home like covered in paint and clay, and they're just having a ball. But they are also coming home with a lot of art. No matter how good I am at downsizing, stuff is gonna come into my home. I'm never going to be able to totally plug the flow of stuff. Most of us aren't, especially if we live in a home with other human beings beside ourselves. So one side is being good about decluttering, but if the flow is like way too fast, it doesn't really matter how good you are at decluttering, you won't be able to keep up. So you also need to slow the flow where you can. And I think that the more we declutter, it does start to get easier to start looking at items as future clutter instead of something exciting or novel or new to buy. It took me a few years of being stuck in the declutter loop to realize that, but the more I did it, the more I realized that I was just buying to declutter again. I shared in a recent video that I have cut my online shopping in 2026 compared to the previous 2 years by somewhere between 70 to 90%. It is hard to get an exact number across the different online retailers, but that is like the best estimate I was able to do by pulling all of the math. And some of that has to do with just budgeting, getting stricter about my spending, but a really good chunk of that came down to just me thinking about everything I bought as something I was going to have to deal with. Did I really want the mental bandwidth of having to deal with unpacking this, recycling the box, finding a place to store it? Was it really adding any true value to my life? And was that value greater than the time and energy I had to give up to house it? Was it worth giving up the calm of a clean counter for the clutter that this item would bring? Why was I really buying it? Was it because I thought that it could solve a problem for me? Could it impress people? Would it make me look a certain way? I really started dissecting my buying a lot differently. And most importantly, I would ask myself, how long until this item was just going to be future trash? I have recently been rereading Goodbye Things, which is why it's coming up for a second time in today's video. It's just a great sort of like beginning book to downsizing, but it also is kind of nice to come back to while you are already in the process of downsizing as well. Certainly the author lives a life that doesn't exactly mimic mine, right? He's a single guy and I live with 5 other people. So downsizing looks different if you are a parent and or a spouse, but I still find a lot of his sentiments to be really helpful when it comes to thinking about our stuff. One thing I really love is when he talks about the fact that he realized that he already had everything he wanted. He said, I never realized before I already had everything I need to live a decent life. I kept wanting more and never felt satisfied. He goes on to talk about how it's easy to look around and see all the things we don't have, maybe a nicer car or a better house or trendier clothes or some product that we want. But as he downsizes, he's able to look at this differently, and he says, it turns out I actually already had everything I ever wanted. He explained how if you look at the stuff you own, it's all things you desired or wanted at some point in your life, and now you have it. Well, many things will start to lose their excitement and luster after we've owned them for a while. At one point, it was something you desired, and then you got it. And he goes on to use this as an example of how we end up in sort of this consumption wheel of always buying, because eventually everything we've desired and then we get sort of becomes ordinary.
Boring.
And then that makes us want more. But I also just find it to be a really sort of steadying thought. I have all that I need. I have things that at one point point were just a dream. Stuff isn't what is going to give me happiness, and it's not what will give you that. And I think the worst bit about it is that it's also, all of this stuff is also stealing from us. The time that we have to take to declutter or organize and store and manage all of our stuff, like for what? It's like exercising 2 hours a day just to still be wildly out of shape. You start to really wonder, what's the point? Okay, so let me leave you with this. You already have everything you ever wanted. Everything you buy is future clutter. You don't need to carry the burden of preparing for every hypothetical future. Most of your imagined situations will probably never happen. The path to having less to manage isn't necessarily about becoming better at decluttering, but it's about changing how you think about the things you buy, you keep, and you feel responsible for. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it allows you to look at some of the stuff and maybe let go of some of the stuff that in your life that you don't really need. Remember to go out there and be kind to yourself and to others, and I will see you all in my next video.